With us for the book of Revelation on a Sunday evening at the Christian Village Church. And wherever you may be, we're really grateful that you're with us. We just had two new families join us from Indiana, so hello to you out in Gary, Indiana, and Boonville, Indiana, and the rest of you throughout the state of New Jersey and all over the country that has joined our TV network. So we're going to share with you tonight on the book of Revelation, and we are very close to the end of the book of Revelation. We're at chapter 20, and last week we covered chapter 20, verse 11. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and heaven fled away. And we talked about this throne and the terminology of throne being a part of your human psyche, your human consciousness. And that's that inner part. That great white throne is the ultimate experience. That inner part that you strive to reach up to. This is very personal now. Nobody's going to be able to prove anything to you. Nobody's going to ask you to believe anything. That's irrelevant for you to believe anything. I mean, you may not believe that the sun will give you a sunburn, but if you sit there long enough, it will anyhow, whether you believe it or not. It doesn't make any difference what you believe. If you find within yourself that special you, this will happen. And you'll begin to understand this terminology. And we're going to come to grips with something that has scared you from the time you've been a little child, if you've been in religious circles, and that's the judgment. The last judgment. Bum, 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 bum. I mean, that'll scare the pants off anybody. I mean, if you think it's that, you know, after you die, you're going to meet God sitting in a courtroom with a gavel in his hand, forget it. You might as well get smashed and just, you know, forget the whole thing. That's an awful thing to conceive of. And we're going to talk about that in the book of Revelation tonight. What's that all about? But the great white throne, the throne is that place where God sits, the kingdom is within you. It is that place of pure consciousness, that high, divine, nirvana consciousness within you, free from all of the stains of human thought and human ego, from whose face the earth and heaven turns away. Well, then certainly it does. Heaven turns away because religion will have nothing to do with it. If there's one place that religion does not want you going, it's your mind. And if there's another thing that religion doesn't even admit that you have, it's a mind. They say everything is, God is in my heart. They always point right here. God is in my heart. From the neck down, you're nothing but a basement full of plumbing. God is not in your heart. The heart means your consciousness. Your consciousness. And so heaven, religion has turned away from it because they won't acknowledge that which is the throne. And the earth has turned away from it because they are the ones who have learned. That's the people. And the people will not look at meditation because they've been told by religion, don't go near it. And so heaven and earth have turned their face away from it. And yet here is the great white throne of Revelation chapter 20, and now verse 12. And look what it says. This is the last judgment. This is it. We've come to the throne of your judgment. This is where you're going to be judged for all of the things you've done. Ay, ay, ay is right. And I mean, you know, if this was true, you'd all be gone. I mean, who would be left in this room? I'm getting out. And I don't know about you. I'd put it in B for boogie, and I'd be up the stairs and out the door. And you're not going to hang around here to get judged for what I've done. You, Vero, you just better go right through the wall. Ain't no sense of you messing around with this thing. See? Here you're going to go to the... And how many of you have lived your whole lives being taught that there is a last judgment and you're going to be judged? You're going to be judged. Now, let me show you something. Open to the book of Romans. I don't even know what page it's on, but you find it. This is the last judgment that you've feared all of your life. So open to the book of Romans, chapter 8, page 149 in your little Bibles. Romans chapter 8. Okay? I want to show you the last judgment of God. That you're going to be judged, and this is one of the things that religion has used to hold you in line and put you under fear all of your life. Look at this, the last judgment. Romans chapter 8, verse 7, the carnal mind, that's your human mind, is enmity against God. It is not subject to the law of God, and neither can it be. So how is God going to judge you if your mind is not subject to the law? Now that should make you think. It certainly hasn't made religion think, because they continue to perpetrate that barbaric type of pagan tradition on people that God is going to judge everybody. How could God judge you if he gave you a mind that cannot obey his law? He put that mind in you. Did you order your mind before you got here? If you did, brother, I mean, we're in trouble. I didn't order this mind that I've got. My mind it can be strange at times. I don't know why it thinks those. Oh, you're laughing, Mary Jungard. That's Mary Jungard. That's the one that asked you to send all the cards, you know. She's laughing. You can picture her with the laughing smile on her face. Oh, her mind never does any funny things on Mary Jungard. See? Each one of you here has a mind that will do to you whatever it pleases. And you'll think the most bizarre things, right? Linda, look at Linda's got that smile on her face. Woo! She's having a good time with her mind right now. Woo! What are you thinking of, Linda? All right? But what I'm saying is your mind does not wait until you decide, I'm going to think of something. It does. You know, right in the middle of your deal, when you're having a good time and you're feeling real good, you might have yourself a big sarsaparilla and some pretzels, and you're watching something on TV, sipping your sarsaparilla, munching on your munchies, and you're just feeling so good, and all of a sudden you think of something, and the bottom falls out. You still got the sarsaparilla in one hand, the pretzels in the other, but all of a sudden you've thought of something that's going to confront you this week, and hell has come to roost inside of your head. Just like that. I mean, it's wonderful. You know what? It happens to you wherever you go. You go on vacation, you go down to the Bahamas, you go down to Acapulco. Ever been to Acapulco? Boom, 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 boom. John and I went to Acapulco. Many years ago, we went to Acapulco. And you can sit on the beach of Acapulco with the marimba band playing, you know, and you got your little margarita, whatever they give you in all those places, you know, and they're coming selling little things. And then all of a sudden, while you're watching the sailboats go by, you'll think of something. I wonder if he's really waiting for me. He said he would be good. Maybe I better call to make sure he's at home. You go and make a long-distance call, operator. Nobody answers the phone. Where is he? Nobody's home. Where could he be, you know? All of these things go through your head constantly because your mind stirs these things up within you. So here you have a mind that is totally out of control, and now since God created a mind in you that's totally out of control, he's going to bring you after you die into this big hall, and he's going to sit up there. Here come the judge. Come on up here, Al Benson. Yeah. Come on up here, Frank. Get up here and tell me, why did you do these things? I saw you shooting pool with your knickers on many years ago. Why did you do that? So we understand that the human mind is not capable of obeying the law, and so we have to look for something else because we've come to the great judgment throne of Revelation 20, verse 12. And that's where we are. Revelation 20, verse 12. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. I saw the dead stand before God to be judged. Let's look at something here. I want you to open to page 93 in your New Testament. For the rest of you, go to the book of John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And go to John 5. Go to John 5 and come with me to verse 24. Jesus is saying, he, are you with me? John 5, verse 24. He that hears my words. That means, do you understand what Jesus Christ instructed you to do? Hear my words means you understand what I said to do and you're doing it. Did you understand what Jesus meant when he said, if your eye be single, your body will fill with light? That means you should practice the single eye. That means meditation. Did you understand when he said the kingdom of God is within you, seek it? That means meditation. Did you understand when he said 5 times take no thought? That means meditation. Did you understand when he said cast your net to the right side? That means meditation. Did you understand when he says enter the closet and close the door? That means meditation. Did you understand when he says you take away the key of knowledge because you don't enter within yourself? That means meditation. And Jesus Christ is saying right now, he that hears my word and believes on him that sent me, Him that sent Jesus Christ. The kingdom is within him. The Father is within him. The higher consciousness is where God manifests himself within you. There is a real God, and his manifestation in the physical realm takes place in your higher consciousness. And Jesus Christ is saying, if you'll believe me and do what I told you to do, seek first within yourself for the kingdom, and if you'll understand that you have a higher realm of consciousness in which the Father manifests himself, if you'll do that, you'll have everlasting life. You shall not come into condemnation. In other words, there'll be no judgment, but you have already passed from death to life. Do you see that? So the whole thing is off. The whole last judgment and all that rigmarole, forget about it. And all you have to do to get out of it is to understand Jesus Christ and submit yourself to the inner meditation of raising your consciousness above the thoughts of the carnal mind, which is not subject to the law of God and cannot obey the law of God. But here we have the dead, small and great. And what are the dead? There's two sections of dead. The dead. The dead. Those who have no spiritual life are dead, and those who have turned away from the mind are dead to the world. So you have a kind of a good dead. On this side, I am dead to the things of the world. I am dead to the flesh because I concentrate on meditation. You have a bad dead on this side. There's no spiritual life. So here we have the dead. But what are we talking about here? There's a great white throne. This is the last judgment. We're back to Revelation 20. Verse 12, it's almost the last page in the Bible. There's a great white throne, and the small and the great, the dead, stand before God. But you've got to understand, when you're looking at this, this is not an actual judging of a judge in a room judging people. You know what this is? This is the reaction of the human mind to the decisions you have made, whether to enter within or to stay without. The judgment is done by your conscience. And it's done by your higher conscience, which is the great white throne, and it will judge you and it will convict you one way or the other. It's all done in here. Because the only place that God exists in the universe is in here. In mind, in thought, in spirit. And so look at this very carefully and forget about it being something that is going to happen in the future. It happens right now. And when you are allowing that which is the instructions of Jesus Christ to activate that part of you, which is the divine consciousness, the great white throne will appear, and also appearing will be that which is the condemnation or the movement upward. So now look what it says here, Revelation 20, verse 12. And the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. You're looking at the human mind and what goes on in the human mind. Remember it said a little while ago, those who turn their face away from God means those who will not submit to that revelation of meditation within themselves. You're looking at the human mind. This whole thing that we're talking about right now, the great white throne and the judgment, is the human mind. So let's put aside everything else and say, your mind. My mind is what we're looking at. And the books were opened. See? So the great white throne being the divine high realm of human consciousness that is purged away from all of that which is the stain of thought, which religion and people have both turned away from. They'll have nothing to do with this, nothing whatsoever to do with this. And here are the dead now. And look what it says. First of all, it says, the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. So who? First of all, the dead means someone whose physical body is no longer alive. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. The dead has nothing to do with a physical body. People do not die. Bodies die. And people and bodies are not the same thing. A human being is a driving life, spirit, vibration that dwells inside of a body. When the body dies, that vibration, that spirit goes someplace else. Let me show you something that's very important when you start talking about death. Very important when you talk about condemnation. Very important when you talk about judgment. On page 166 of your little Bible, in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Here now we're talking about the fact that what dies is the spirit within you. Not the human body, not the physical body. What does it say in 1 Corinthians chapter 15? 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 50. Now I say, brethren, that the flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, neither does corruption inherit incorruption. There is no way whatsoever that this has anything to do with the human body. Nothing to do with it. It has to do with the human mind. It has to do with the consciousness. Do you see that? Flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. Because the kingdom of God being within you is a consciousness. It's each one of us here. I mean, you could see, for instance, you can see people in Iraq poised with guns aimed at one another, ready to blast one another to smithereens over religion. You see them in Israel with the Arabs and the Jews ready to blast each other, the kingdom come, over religion. But what would happen if all of those people on both sides suddenly found that bliss within themselves, entered into that nirvana, and no longer had any allegiance to any group, and no longer had any allegiance to any religion, no longer had any allegiance to any nationality? All of a sudden everything became a oneness. That's the end of it. It's the end of the fighting, it's the end of the shooting, it's the end of the hating, and it's a oneness now which develops into a peace on earth. It becomes a heaven on earth because the mind has changed. Once the inside changes, then the outside changes. Once the mind of man changes, then earth changes from earth to heaven, from hell to heaven. In Revelation 14:13 it says, "Blessed are the dead which die in the Lord." How do you die in the Lord? How would you die in the Lord? You know what you've ever thought that means when you die in the Lord? That you were laying on your deathbed, gasping for your last breath, and somebody comes and lays a hand on you, or sprinkles you, or touches you with a cross, and say these words after me. Hurry up, quickly. The doctor says you only got 3 seconds to live, Mary. Say these words after me. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in Jesus Christ is raised from the dead. I believe He's my Lord. Boom, boom. She's gone. She's dead. Oh, but she said these words. Said these magic words. She's saved. To die in the Lord means to give up that which is your lower carnal consciousness to that which is the higher divine realm within you. It has nothing to do with dying physically, because flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. To die is to shut down those things which are the thoughts and the concerns and the allegiance from the lower thoughts and raise yourself up into the higher place. The Apostle Paul said, I die daily. I do. You must. And it comes from meditation. It comes from meditation. It comes from putting that inside at ease. Let me try to clear something with you to get you to understand. Dead people do not exist. Something of what I talked to you a moment ago. There is no such thing as a dead person. There is a dead body. When you go into the funeral parlor and they put rouge and lipstick and shove newspapers in this guy's mouth to make him look like he's, oh boy, he looks terrific. How would you look? You'd look great too if you had newspapers in your mouth. You go into a place like this and you say, is this a dead person? No, it's a dead body. When they took your car away to the junkyard, Al. Many cars. Never once did they take you with it. No.
That was a dead body.
They don't take the driver with the car. They don't take you when the body dies. The spirit leaves the body. So the judgment of the dead, listen very carefully, the judgment of the dead is the reaction of the mind to the decisions we have made in our life. That's exactly what it is. The judgment of the dead is the reaction of your own mind to the decisions that you have made. To be in the land of the living within, or to be in the land of the dead without. It's up to you. And it's up to me. And many of us basically have chosen to live in the land of the dead without all of our lives, and we've paid for it, and we've seen it. Look at, I mean, just look out there, read the newspapers, and in fact, in order to get our religious cultivation, in order to get ourselves totally tuned into that which is God, we put these buffoons on television like Mr. Tilton and throw millions of dollars at this guy so he can say, get your master charge out there, Benson, send me $1,000. And I'll get you healed. Well, Al Benson says, I don't have $1,000. Well,
God says nuts to you. I'll go over here. How about you? Come on now. $1,000, I get you healed. But there's enough people that have sent this man so much money that he rides around in 2 Mercedes automobiles with a $5 million house. $5 million house, 7.5 bathrooms, and I'm saying it on television, he's a crook. I mean, at least the guy that comes in with the gun in the bank tells you he's a crook. You know, I'm a crook, give me your money. Okay, I have respect for you, at least you tell me you're a crook. But a man that says that God is going to check your credit before he gives you your healing, that's a little bit. I mean, you know, some people have gotten turned down for credit cards. When we were early married and we used to spend all these credit cards, we were very insulted once because Esso turned us down. They said, turn in your credit card. I said, there must be some mistake. Mr. Esso, we're going to pay this, you know. No, give us the card back. So my credit was no good. Well, with this guy tilting on television, that means I'm not going to get healed because I don't have good credit. See? God's up there checking. Here, check. He puts it on the computer. Uses married computers. Check it out. Lost his Esso credit card. 3 weeks behind with Sears. I ain't going to heal him. No way. You come back here. You get another job and get yourself straightened out. You know, and maybe you get your finances in order. Then maybe I'll heal you. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll pray over this hanky here. And I'll send this to you in the mail. That's all you get. You get a hanky. Send you a hanky. But you know, it's not so sick that the guy's doing that. What's sick is that millions and millions of people who profess to be quote-unquote born-again Christians are sending him this money. That's the sick part of it. Did I send him money, sir? In the old days. Yeah, 10 years ago. But the great white throne, then, is your own conscience. And that great white throne is born out of God consciousness. What's happening here means that you have struggled all of your life. You've had things go down the drain. You've had things turned around. Constant struggle to the point where finally you found this touch within you. And you could have been addicted to this, addicted to that, addicted to the other thing. One thing or another, something has caused you to be addicted to something because somebody has scared the pants off of you somewhere along the line. Whoever it was, somebody has put something in your mind which freaked you out at a very early age, and this led you from one place into the other and into a desperate situation. Then finally you turn. Now watch this very carefully because I'm going to show you what the judgment is. Finally you turn within. You start looking upward, and there's a great white throne. And this great white throne is born out of God consciousness, and it is about to exercise a judgment. But the judgment, as you're going to see here, is not against human beings. The judgment is not against people. The judgment is against the things that hurt people. That's good. God doesn't come with Al Benson and says, Al, you stinking little guy, you're going around here shooting pool and all those stuff. For shame on you. I thought when you were 8 years old. We're going to go back over your life, Al Benson. When you were 8 years old, is it true or is it not true that you snuck a cigarette in the girls' room? Or the boys' room? The boys' room. Oh, my God. Tell it like it is, Al. Smoking in the boys' room. Okay. That's not what the judgment is. I heard that. That's not what the judgment is. Okay. The judgment is that consciousness of God, that great white throne, that beautiful place that comes from meditation, that will down and come down, and it's going to make those areas that have held you into bondage turn you loose. Watch what happens. First of all, it says the books were opened, Revelation 20:12. But also the book of life was opened. You will never realize until somehow somebody shows it to you how screwed up your life has gotten by the things that either you have read or other people have read and interpreted to you. People have told you things they read. Do you know how many people's lives have been screwed up because somebody told them what to do that's written in the Bible? Do you know how many ministers have gone forth and told some poor woman to go back with this maniac they live with and submit herself to him because it says in the Bible that the wife must be submissive to the husband? How many women have been wrecked by that kind of nonsense? How many people have been frightened, totally frightened into almost insanity. How many people have gone into depressions because they didn't get healed, and since they didn't get healed, it must be that they didn't have enough faith? How many people have almost lost their minds trying to get healed when they see somebody else? Oh, yeah, my shoulder feels a lot better. Yeah, my shoulder feels a lot better. But here's a guy that can't get out of a wheelchair. What happened?
That's a $15,000 healing.
Yeah. Richard, that's a $15,000 healing. Books are, and what do books mean? Do you see what it says in Revelation 20:12? And the books were open. Books are instructions. Books are doctrines. Books are laws. Books are traditions. Books are things that you and I have grown up with, have led our life with. Books are things that I read as a little child that used to frighten me, and other people would say, hey, it's in the Bible. It's in the Bible, and if you do this, God is going to punish you by throwing you in hell forever. Forever. Ever. You're going to be on fire forever? Forever. Now that would hurt. That would really hurt if you would be on fire forever. Did you ever burn yourself with a match or on a stove or anything? It's going to burn you forever because you snuck a cigarette in a boy's room? Gee. Let me tell you something. Taken literally, the things that you read in the Bible, the things that other people read to you, and they'll say, you know what somebody will do? They'll read a book by some author, and they'll say, look, I got this on good. This is what you should do, and this is your problem, because I read this. Now, I want you to do this, and they'll give you some advice. And you'll go nuts. They didn't understand what they were telling you to do, but they became some kind of a pseudo-counselor because they read this, and they'll advise you what to do on the basis of what they read somewhere. 2 Corinthians 3:6, and I think you should look at it. It's on page 168 in your little Bibles. 168 in your little Bibles, and it's 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 6. And what's it say? Who has made us able ministers of the New Testament, not of the letter. Not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life. And so the books are open. Your life is thrown open to your own conscience. Your guilt, your fear, your anger, your hate, it all comes from something that somebody has written or something that somebody has said. Confusion, hate, war, it's all been written first. Somebody plans it somewhere. Somebody writes it somewhere and gives it to you. Here's a tract. Here's a pamphlet that I picked up. Here, do this, do that, do the other thing. All of this stuff comes out of the minds of men, and it's all been reduced to writing somewhere or other. Just believe it and you'll receive it. Doesn't make any difference. Just pray and receive. Believe it and you'll receive it. Oh, God. That's just it. They're saying this right up about this guy Tilton. Somebody gave him $1,000. And they, as a result of it, they found a wife. And then the guy said, I found $70 in a yard somewhere, and I attribute that to Mr. Tilton. Give him $1,000, and he found 70, and he found a wife. He should demand his money back. Demand his money back. But there's another book here. Watch this one, Revelation 20:12, okay? Look what it says. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. Come with me with this one, will you? The book of life. This is your book. Watch this. Because if you get into this book, this is where the action is. The book of life. See, the dead don't read this book. Let me tell you something, my friends. People who are outside of meditation have never touched the book of life. They've never read the book of life. They don't know what that book of life is, and that book of life is their judge. That book of life is your judge. Watch it. Come with me. You're in the book of Revelation. Go back to Revelation 5. You're in Revelation 20 now. Turn back to Revelation 5, and let's see something about the book of life. Revelation 5. You ready? Everybody there? Revelation 5, chapter 5, verse 1. And I saw in the right hand that of him that sat on the throne a book. Notice the first thing. The book of life is in the right hand of him that sat on the throne. It is in the higher consciousness in the right hemisphere. The right hemisphere of the brain in the higher consciousness is the origin. That's why it's he that sits on the throne, which is the highest consciousness, okay, in the right hand, means the right hemisphere. A book written where? Within. It's in you. A book written within. It is deep inner consciousness on the back side, sealed with 7 seals. On the back is the ancient mystery of the 7 chakras, the 7 nerve centers which rise from the sacrum up the back, over into the head to the pineal gland of the brain. Now look at it. You look at it. That looks like something that Donahut made up. You know, that nut in the cellar down there that shouts all its crazy stuff. Take a look at it. The book is in the right hand. It's in the right hemisphere of the brain. Jesus Christ said, cast your net to the right side. It says in 1 Kings 6:8, when they constructed the temple, they put the door to the holy place on the right side. A fool's hand is at his right, left side. A wise man's hand is at his right side, it says in Ecclesiastes. It's on it. So the book is in the right hand of him that sat on the throne. In other words, in the right hemisphere of your higher consciousness, you will find deep within yourself that which is written on the back, which means overcoming the 7 chakras, climbing up those 7 steps, overcoming those 7 seals, up into nirvana. That's the book of life. And do you see why they're dead? They've never seen it. They've never looked at it. They don't even know it exists. They know a Bible exists, which is the letter. They interpret it literally, but they know nothing of the book of life, because the book of life is not written in paper. The book of life is written on the inside, on the back, sealed with 7 seals, which are the 7 chakras. I mean, how plain does it have to be? And it's in the right hand of him who sits at the throne. The power of the energy which comes from, that's the book of life. So the great judgment flows down from the consciousness of the higher mind, and it will convict your very beings by the destruction that has been running rampant in your life. And you say, why has everything happened to me? Why did this happen to me? Why does this happen to my family? And probably not one in your family knows anything about the book of life. You all say, oh, is my name written in the book of life? You know what it means? Is my name written in the book of life? Do you follow the way of the book of life? Do you follow the way of the 7 chakras? Do you follow the way of the Kundalini? Do you follow the way of meditation? No, I wouldn't do that. Well, it'll convict you. And you'll look at the shambles, and you look at the shambles of the world that you live in, and you look what has happened to people. You look at the destruction, you look at the disease, you look at the violence. How long are you going to just sit there? How long are you going to say, well, this is the way it is? What are you going to do? Like, stop the world, I want to get off. You can't get off. You're running around on a tennis ball going through space at 40,000 miles an hour with nobody driving it. You're stuck here. What are you going to do? Wouldn't it be worthwhile to find out about the book that is in the right hand, that is written on the back and sealed with the 7 seals? Now let me show you the good part. Revelation 20, verse 12. Revelation 20, verse 12. And it says, and the sea gave up the dead which were in it. Do you see that? First of all, it says that the dead were judged out of these things which were written in the books according to their works. Written in the books, basically your consciousness destroyed by the things that you've read, destroyed by the things that other people have told you, destroyed by religion, destroyed by doctrines, destroyed by dogmas, and totally ignorant of the book of life, which are the 7 seals which rise up the chakras of your spine, totally ignorant of it. And then it says, and the sea gave up the dead which were in it. The sea, in this sense, is the passions of the emotional nature. They storm, they rage, they rise, and sometimes you know yourself when you're ready to pull your hair out or scream or kill somebody that the storm is raging all about you. There are billows that are just going to cover you over. There are waves that are going to cover you over. They're thrashing against the rocks. There is an absolute cyclone. There's chaos. Within you, all of this is going on. Buddha said the eye of man is the sea. Things visible are the foam of his sea, and he who has overcome the foaming billows of visible things, that is a Brahman, means that is spirit. To overcome the waves, to overcome the whirlpools, to overcome profound depths, one reaches the shore. You know what the adversary was called in the most ancient times? Typhon. Comes from the sea. Right now you can hear of a serious storm. It's called a typhoon. The adversary. Typhon is the adversary. It's the lower mind. The adversary of God, the passions of the emotional nature. But look what's happened here. Don't you see what's happened here? You've been tortured all of your life by the emotions, and now because you have turned within and the appearance of the great white throne, that higher consciousness has come, those things which have held you in bondage as the raging sea are made to turn you loose, set you free. Set you free. The sea is made to give up her dead. Those parts of you that were dead to the things of God now must turn you loose because you have turned. And the judgment of the great white throne has come to force these things to turn you loose. And look what it says here in Revelation 20, verse 12. And verse 13, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. Death holds the soul, the very personality of those who are in bondage to the flesh and to the passions of the emotions. Now they're turning you loose. If you knew me in the old days, I mean, you know, I can get a little carried away now in these days, but in the old days, it was nothing for me to throw my fist through a wall. I mean, it was terrible. I demolished half a kitchen one time. You remember that? I mean, why? Because of the rage, because of the storm, because of the ocean that was screaming within me. I used to have to go into a room, shut all the lights off, lay on a couch and turn on Tchaikovsky or Wagner or Haydn and listen to these symphonies. Then I used to go nuts in those things. Anything. Because my mind always was going in all different directions, and many times it used to explode physically and become violent. And till I found the throne. And that same energy, which was a destructive energy, has been turned around into a positive. Well, that's why the terrorist Saul became the Apostle Paul. The same energy he had terrorizing was used to evangelize. And so here then your very personality is delivered out of the depths of death. And it says hell, look at Revelation 20:13, hell delivered up the dead. Freed from the burning, freed from the passion. So here the emotions of the sea have yielded you up. You're not in bondage to that anymore. You're not a nitwit anymore. You found peace. You're in control of this thing. And death has given up your personality. See, you're not, who am I anymore? You're a certain, you know what your destiny is, you know what life is, and now hell has yielded you up. There is no longer the fire and screaming and passion to hold you into the bondage of things that used to hold you. All because you've been willing to submit to meditation. All because you've come before the great white throne of judgment. Don't you understand? When you come into meditation, you come into the great white throne of judgment. That's where the judgment takes place. And the great God who dwells within you comes down with his gavel and says, yes, my people, my child has been oppressed. And yes, I declare the sea that rages guilty. I declare death guilty. I declare hell guilty. And I command that hell turn you loose. I command that the sea turn you loose. I command that death turn you loose. And you're free. You're free. Because you have had the guts to turn away from religion, to turn away from these Tiltons and all of these crooks, and turn to the one who within you is the Christ. And it doesn't cost you a penny. Sit on your wallet, spend your money. I'd rather see you go to Atlantic City, give it to Donald Trump than give it to that guy. Any day in the week. At least Donald lets you know what he's trying to do. Deceit is all it is. You know how I know about this eternal hell junk? Let me show you something. Go to page 468 in your Old Testament. We're almost done. Page 468, and the rest of you go to the book of Psalms. And go to Psalm 16. Okay? Psalm 16. And I would show you something. Psalm chapter 16, verse 10. And what's it say? Look what he says about this. For, are you with me? For you will not leave my soul in hell. What did it just say? They scared the pants off of you, telling you're going to go to hell forever. And here God says, for you, he will not leave your soul in hell. Because hell is a creation of the carnal mind, and he will rescue you from that. All you've got to do is turn to the great white throne, and the judgment will come down against hell and death and the raging sea. You will not leave my soul in hell. Neither will you suffer your Holy One to see corruption. What does that mean? You know who your Holy One is? The holy place within you. The Apostle Paul says in Hebrews 10:19, you have authority to enter into the holy place. The door to the holy place is in the right side. And neither will you suffer your Holy One to see corruption. Oh, you say, well, that means Jesus. Jesus was in the grave, but he resurrected. That doesn't mean me. Romans 8:17, the Apostle Paul says, we are joint heirs with Christ. The Holy One is the mind when it is freed from hell. The judgment of the higher mind now is complete. Freedom has come from the inner consciousness, which is God. And finally, and you've been patient with this, but just give me one more second and we're done. In Revelation 20, verse 14, and I just wanted to do these two because then we are finished and we go on to the last two chapters in the book of Revelation. Magnificent. And then we will have taken every single sentence in the book of Revelation and translated it through the mystical gifts of God. In Revelation 20, verse 14, it said, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Death, to get rid of the typhoon. Death is what? Separation from God. And hell is the torture of the passions of the lower mind. It's the passion, the fire of the mind, the lower mind. We're cast into the lake of fire. The lake is always deep within you. The Spirit of God consumes him. It's the second death. What's the first death? When you meditate and you kill the ego. That's the first death. When you agree to subject yourself to meditation and through the silence of nirvana and the nothingness separating from thought is the first death. The second death is the death of the power of the lower mind to control your life. It's not your death because you'll never die. Jesus Christ promised you that if you'll do what he says, you've already passed from death to life. The first death is the death of your ego, which comes when you lift your consciousness above the thoughts of your mind. You've finally given up. You're no longer going to call the shots. Now you're going to leave it up to the higher mind to call the shots. That's the first death. And the second death is the death of hell, the death of death, the death of the sea to control your life. No more. And once that's gone, no matter what disease you have, no matter what hurt you have, the immune system now can function. The immune system doesn't have to eavesdrop on the chaos of your mind. Now the immune system can eavesdrop on that which is the healing power of the divine mind. And why? What can stop the divine mind from healing? Nothing. Nothing. But you got to be willing to submit to this and purge all of that crap. And all it does is take you being quiet and submitting yourself to meditation. In verse 15, the end of chapter 20, and whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. The aspects of your personality which would not submit to this inner purification along the 7 chakras will never make it. And they will live until they do turn. They will live in the passion and in the fire of hate and anger and temper and tantrums and all the rest of that. There's no way until finally you reach that point of turning and climbing those 7 stairs, those 7 seals, those 7 chakras up to the great white throne. Remember that. Whoever was not found written in the book of life, and remember what the book of life is. It's on the right side, written on the back with 7 seals. Since the history of time, with the ancients, through the mythologies, through Hinduism, through Brahman, through Buddha, through all the rest of them, they talk to you about the 7 seals that rise up your spine. People take their crystals and put on and all this kind of stuff. Why not? People say, do you have a crystal? You bet your little... I have a crystal. Why wouldn't I have a crystal? You know why I have a crystal? Because the Bible says God's throne is like unto crystal. You know why I have a crystal? Because I have 12 sympathetic nerve systems in my body, 12 aspects of the brain. There are 12 aspects to every crystal. Am I right? You told me that. Because crystal transmits energy. That's why it's in radio receivers and television sets. Crystal. In fact, in the old days, when the radio first came out, they used to call them crystal sets. They call them crystal receivers. Remember my father telling me they had a little crystal. And they used to touch this thing and they could pick up Pittsburgh. Really, truly. Right. See? That's crystal. But you know what? You could people, religious people, oh, yes, crystal must be evil. It's evil. Here's God created. Beautiful. God created. They say, because Jesus says, well, they call evil good and they call good evil. And so, here then we've learned something. We've turned the whole last judgment around, haven't we? And we found out that the last judgment is not God against you. It's God against the things that are hurting you. He's a good God. He's peaceful. He's love. He's healing. He's recreation. He's restoration. He doesn't hurt anybody. He doesn't bomb anybody. He doesn't send fire on anything or anybody. The only thing that he burns and he hurts are those things that are hurting you. It doesn't make any difference if it's disease. It doesn't make any difference if it's your mind, if it's your family relations. It doesn't make any difference what it is. If you'll submit to the great white throne, he will bring down a judgment against those things. And hell that has been raging in with you will be cast away. Death which has been raging in with you will be cast away. And that great sea of your emotions which has strangled you will be cast away. Once again, the false notion that God hurts and God frightens is cast away. And we see that people aren't thrown into hell. Hell is thrown into hell. Death is thrown into hell. Enough of that stuff. Thank you.